Hi everybody, it's Rebecca Virginia, and today I have some fun summer DIYs to share with you that all have a watermelon touch. The first DIY in today's video is a mason jar watermelon sign. This bright DIY is the perfect welcoming decor piece for your front door. Here are all of the supplies that you'll need to make this on your own. Starting off with our watermelon mason jar welcome sign, I taped out this section of the mason jar. You could just freehand it if you want to, but I am not the cleanest of painters, so I decided to start with painter's tape. And I took the shade Berry Red by Apple Barrel. And then for the top section of our mason jar, which is supposed to be the lid, I took the shade Elephant by Waverly in the Waverly chalk paint and painted the top. Because I wanted the bottom of our mason jar to have a curved edge, it's really hard to create a curve with painter's tape. So this part I did freehand, and you'll see me go back and forth a couple times throughout this project with painter's tape and freehanding. I love the clean edges of the painter's tape, but again, it's just really hard to get that to curve. And right now I am creating the rind of our watermelon. Again, you can see me go in with the painter's tape and try to see if I could make it work. And the first shade of green that I used was the shade Palmetto by Delta Creative. And then the one that I'm going in with now is called Celery by Waverly. And then lastly, I just used the shade Green by Apple Barrel, and that is going to be the main end of our watermelon. Now that the initial colors are all set on the mason jar, it's time to start adding the little details and some shading. So I'm going in with my really fine point detailing tool and some black paint and just adding definition to the top of our mason jar lid. I outlined the lid with black paint, and then I went in with a fine point paintbrush and some white paint to highlight some of the areas. So I'm making some white lines just where the black added definition. We're now adding the light white to highlight. And now I'm adding in all of these little details on our sign. So I took that really small detailing tool and some white paint, and I just created, I guess I would call them squiggles, just little squiggles of varying lengths all along the curved edges of our watermelon rind. Then I'm just adding a few more details to the bottom watermelon rind section of the mason jar. So along here, I'm just putting little white polka dots kind of at different angles. And then on the lower dark green section of our watermelon rind, I'm taking my same tool and white paint and making little trio clusters of white dots along the bottom. For the welcome part of my sign, I decided to make a stencil out of some Oracle vinyl. I will have the kind that I use linked below. And I decided to use a stencil rather than a vinyl decal because everything in my sign was paint, and I thought it would look a little weird if I had some shiny vinyl also on the sign. So I decided to just make a stencil and then go over it with some Waverly white chalk paint. And then I'm just using my little Cricut weeding tool to get out any other little bits of the stencil. And last part pretty much is making the seeds for our watermelon. So I just took a small paintbrush and some black paint and just freehanded on some watermelon seeds. The sign already came with this jute hanger, so I went ahead and just placed that back in the sign to act as the hanger. As the last final touch, I added in a raffia bow and then just trimmed it down to size. After adding the bow, your watermelon sign is all ready to be displayed. You can always make this sign with different types of fruit. I think lemon, kiwi, and even strawberry would look great. Our second DIY is a watermelon glass. This is a really simple DIY that uses very few supplies. Here are those that you'll need to recreate this DIY on your own. For this next project, we are going to be using one of these stemless wine glasses that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then I took some paint. This is the CermaCoat paint in the shade Watermelon, so very fitting. And I did dilute it in water. I don't want this to be opaque. I want it to be, I guess, kind of like a stain. So I diluted the paint a lot in water and then just brushed it on. To create the watermelon rind effect on our stemless wine glass, I am taking one of my favorite supplies ever to use, and that is jute. And I am just wrapping this around the wine glass. It's a little bit tricky at first when you're working with the bottom of it, but then once you get to more of the center part of the wine glass, it's really easy to just wrap all around. While I was adding the jute, I noticed that some of the paint was chipping off of my wine glass. And to prevent this from happening, I took some of this Dishwasher Safe Mod Podge. It really seals in the paint and makes it basically waterproof. So I added this on, and this helped prevent my paint from chipping. And also, because this is a drinking glass, I'm going to be hand washing it with soap and water before and after use. So this will really help make it waterproof. Today's video is really highlighting all of these amazing Plaid products. Plaid owns Folk Art, Apple Barrel, Mod Podge, Waverly. They have so many amazing items, and I am a Plaid ambassador for them. They're not paying me to promote any of their products, but they did very kindly send me a lot of the paints that I'm using today for this watermelon video. One of them being this holly green color that I'm using to paint over the jute. This is going to be the bottom section of our watermelon rind. So I'm going ahead and painting all of the jute in this green color. There is a giveaway associated with today's video. One lucky winner will win a whole box of Plaid products. This was organized by Annie Jones. Thank you, Annie. I'll link her channel down below. She's so creative and does really fun and entertaining videos, so please go check her out. All you have to do to enter is visit every video in today's playlist. I will have the playlist linked down below in the description box, and you have to comment the code word on each person's video. Every video will have a different code word, so make sure you watch everyone's videos and listen carefully for that word. My code word is celery. That is the shade name of the Waverly chalk paint I'm using to paint the jute on my watermelon glass. So be sure to comment celery on this video to be entered into the giveaway, and check out everyone else's video in the playlist too. Now I'm using my detailing tool and some black paint and drawing on our watermelon seeds. I started off a little too tiny on the seeds, so I had to make them a little bit bigger, but it's better to start off small, then you can always go in and add more paint. And I just added them at diagonals all the way around our watermelon glass. I absolutely love how this DIY came out, and I cannot wait to be sipping out of this fun cup all summer long. The next DIY is a fun piece of summer decor that would look great displayed on a tiered tray or anywhere in your home to add a touch of summer. Here's what you'll need to recreate it. So hopefully you've seen them at your Dollar Tree, but I have seen these little signs with what appear to be ceramic coasters in them all over my Dollar Tree in lots of different designs, so I wanted to do a DIY with one of them. So I just popped out the coaster. It was really easy. I just pushed and the coaster popped out. And then I had planned to stain the wood because most of the Dollar Tree is unfinished wood, like in the little wood houses that they have or in their canvas frames. But this one was finished, so the stain would not stick to it at all. So I had to improvise and go in with my Apple Barrel Burnt Umber paint. So I'm just going in and painting the entire frame in a dark brown. Then I flipped over the coaster, didn't even have to paint it, and just popped it in, and I had a perfect blank canvas. You can use paint or lettering or a sticker, but I chose to make my own vinyl decal, actually using the green Dollar Tree vinyl. And then I took some of these wood fruit stickers from the Dollar Tree and painted it into a watermelon to place in the corner of my little decor piece. Lastly, to embellish this decor piece, I took a gingham ribbon and turned it into a bow to place on top. I thought it was really fitting and made it kind of look like a picnic tablecloth. I love the gingham ribbon in this DIY. Again, it just reminds me of a summer picnic, and the pops of bright red in this piece really make it stand out, especially if you were to display it on a shelf. The last DIY in today's video is a super easy one that would be great to do with kids or those who aren't as fluent in crafting, because it's basically just sponge painting. Here's how you can recreate this on your own. This would be such a fun DIY to do with kids because it's really easy and we're basically just doing some sponge painting. So I took a sponge from the Dollar Tree, they come 2 a pack, and I just cut out a triangle shape, and then for the rind of our watermelon slice, I just cut out a long rectangle shaped piece of sponge, and I kind of cut it a little bit more so it was slightly curved. This is pretty difficult to do with the sponge, and it ends up looking fine regardless, but I did curve it a tiny bit. Now I am taking my napkins, and all that I did was push the sponge into some red paint and started placing down my watermelon triangles. And when I was completely done with this, I ended up liking that one way better where it had less paint. So since these are Dollar Tree napkins, I think I got like 50 in a pack, so I scrapped that one and decided to go with a little less paint on my sponge. And I really liked the way that these came out even better, where it wasn't completely opaque and it kind of had that speckled effect. And I went all over the napkin with this red sponge. Learning from my experience with the red paint, I didn't completely load up my sponge with green paint, just a little bit, because again, I still wanted the napkin to show through and it to have that kind of speckled sponge painting effect. And then I just went over top of our red triangles, leaving a little bit of space so that there is the white napkin and shows, you know, the natural white of watermelon rind, and then just put the green on top. My last finishing touch for our watermelon napkins was to add the seeds. So again, I just took my detailing tool and some black paint and went ahead and did 2 rows of seeds and staggered them a little bit so they weren't in perfect straight lines. These napkins would be the perfect decor for a summer barbecue, or if you're hosting a children's party and need an activity for everyone to do, this is a really fun and easy one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next week with a new video. Until then, keep searching, keep creating.